It doesn't take a person in search of demons too awful long to find them. If one were so inclined to seek them out, they will soon find those pesky things are everywhere, under beds and closets, under lampstands, and in every box of Hannah Montana breakfast cereal on aisle 13. In a world that happens to reside in a universe that hangs in the balance of signs and symbols, one does not have to look too awful far before stumbling upon some sort of sacred geometry, and with the ignorance of a child staring into its dark closet, convinced that jacket on a hanger is a goblin, see the devil in the details. As the old adage would state, speak of the devil will appear. Are there signs, symbols, and sacred geometry all around us? The answer to that is an obvious yes, of course. Without signs and symbols, communication itself would be very difficult for our species to begin with. So if signs and symbols are inherently evil, they most certainly are a necessary inherent evil. That can make things a little confusing when you consider that we are told the heavens themselves, with their worlds and their stars, were created as signs for seasons by the big man himself, the original G, or God, as it were, seems to admit in his classic appearance in the Bible that there is no one else to blame for the design of signs and symbols, specifically including the blanket of the zodiac, but he himself. The notion that God somewhat expects us to understand the signs and symbols created begs the question of how said signs and symbols can be in and of themselves evil. One of my earliest memories was around the age of 6 or so. I was riding with my mother and father on some back country roads, heading home from some relative's house, if I remember correctly. I remember it being very dark and foggy that particular night, and to tell you the truth, the experience was a little frightening. I myself had not remembered the route we took to our destination, and was certainly at a loss when it came to finding our way home. This feat would be even more impossible for me with the added difficulty of the darkness and thick billowing fog pushing against the van. Sure, it isn't much of a tribulation, but for a 6-year-old, it's sort of a horrific venture through the valley of the shadow of death. I didn't want to be the one to voice my seriously held concerns and upset anyone else in the van to the absolute disparity of the situation. I didn't want to be the prick that screamed of our impending doom, so I focused on my mother in the passenger seat, who didn't seem stirred at all, and my father, who tapped the steering wheel to Johnny Cash as he casually navigated through the darkness without a care in the world. Those two must know things I do not, I thought. I wiggled my way in between their seats and cautiously craned my neck so I could see past the dashboard and into the night my parents didn't seem to fear. When I was confident that merely looking into the dark would bring me no harm, I started to take notice of things my father seemed to observe without any concentration at all. At first I noticed that there were bright yellow lines, sometimes solid and sometimes broken, dashing towards us and under the van. "What are those, Daddy?" I asked. "Those yellow lines? Oh, well, those tell me what side of the road to stay on, so I don't hit another car going the other way, son." Once that had been explained to me, and I was relieved of the fear that we could slam into someone on the way home, I looked outward a little more and saw to the right of us little glowing green signs with numbers on them that darted past us periodically. "And what are those things, Daddy?" I asked. "Those are called mile markers, son. They give us an idea of how far we are from home and how long it will take us to get there," he explained. The idea that we would be lost in the dark fog for all eternity then fled from me, and I was no longer afraid that I would never see my bed with its Popeye the Sailor Man sheets again. After seeing larger white signs with numbers on them, I inquired about those too. "Those tell me the speed limit, son. They let me know when I can go faster or when I need to slow down." For the remainder of the trip home, my father explained what stop signs were for, what yield signs told you to do, why the lights have 3 different colors, and why they change, and before you know it, we ran out of signs to be explained before we pulled safely up into the driveway of our home. I remember as I crawled into my Popeye bed sheets and snuggled up with my Huey duck, thinking that the ride home wasn't so scary after all. I could have stayed my frightened little ass in the back seat, covered my face with my shirt, and whimpered to God to please make it all stop, as all the signs remained Greek to me. However, even at that young age, I was a truth seeker. When one is a seeker of the truth, they brave the fear of the unknown, and at the very least they crawl between Mama and Daddy and demand answers. They beg for explanations. As the book says, "Ask and ye shall receive." That night I learned that no matter how dark the night is or how thick the fog of the unknown clouds around you, the signs to lead you home are all around you. However, seeing the signs won't do you much good if you can't understand what they are telling you. Of course, in order to understand what they are telling you, you're going to need some guides that are no strangers to the road. In that instance, my parents were illuminated to the road leading home, and they were the only ones that could have initiated me to their level of enlightenment. While two of my siblings remained in the back seat and napped or twiddled their thumbs, I pushed past my fear, rooted in ignorance, and asked for the light of knowledge. I faced the devil in the van that night, and the devil was me. My fear of the unknown was my own personal Satan, and once I had the choice to resist him, well, what do you know? He fled from me. The bright light of knowledge burned the very fear right out of me. Knowledge passed down to me from my elders. This most certainly could not have been accomplished by the ignorant speculations or assumptions from those that chose to remain in the dark in the back of the van. This brings me to all this fuss in our day about the occult and the so-called Illuminati. In most circles, the very mention of either sends shivers down the spines of many. I have to confess, there was a time in my youth when I pontificated about secret cabals that were hell-bent on world domination, depopulation, genetically modifying our food, poisoning our water, chemtrailing our skies, etc., etc., etc. Obviously, I am not saying such things are not transpiring. It is evident that they are in fact happening. Where I had misplaced blame, however, was when I, in a paranoid fit, assigned blame for such things to those who are considered to be in the Illuminati or the occult. You know, the ones that flash hand signs, cover one eye, use numerology or sacred geometry to communicate with one another. I have news for you. Those are not the people you should hold hostility towards. They are not the satanic sycophants slaughtering babies and performing black magic rituals at your expense. Can one that believes in an ultimate higher power really doubt that that higher power would allow the demons to run amok and not send angels or angles of light that understand the same science as they understand? To me, it seems that for the most part, those of the Orthodox Christian faith are the ones most fearful of the use of Illuminati symbolism, which strikes me as rather odd considering the 66 books of the Bible actually advocate illumination as well as occult practices. To be clear, the word occult simply means something hidden. It has absolutely nothing to do with Satan worship or black magic. It simply means hidden. That's pretty much it. If I hide a beer in the fridge, it is occult, even if it isn't occult 45. With the appropriate definition in hand of occult and a reading from the book of Proverbs, which says, "It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter." There is no denying that God itself practices the occult. The superstar of the New Testament, Yeshua the Christ, was very much an occultist, having outer teachings, and inner circle teachings. Yeshua taught in symbolism and code. This is evident in the book of Matthew, as we read, "And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand." Or, as the Authorized Crumpton version would read, "Those douchebags over there don't know their ass from a hole in the ground and don't even care enough to figure it out. I ain't explaining jack shit to them." The whole notion that having secret knowledge that is only passed from master to apprentice being satanic or indicative of devil worship is another unfounded claim of the Christian apologetic, when clearly Yeshua said, "Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you." Or, as the Authorized Crumpton version would say, "Don't be teaching assholes this really groovy metaphysical stuff I'm laying on you. Those guys are freaking pigs, and they'll cut your throat as soon as they learn a little bit, so they can try to conjure up crap for their belly." Now, obviously, the enlightened ones are supposed to seek out others who are looking for the light, but the Illuminati, or the enlightened ones, are most certainly not to force convert anyone. Yeshua said, "And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words, when ye depart out of that house or city, shake off the dust of your feet. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city." Or, as the ACV would word, "If they ain't got time to listen to the truth, fuck 'em." At this point, opponents to occult practices would point out that Yeshua said to preach on the housetops what you've heard in the ear as some sort of refutation. I would respond by saying, there aren't too many people willing to climb to the roof to hear that which was whispered in the ear, so come on up and maybe we can rap a little, but don't expect me to cast my pearls down there in the street. The practice of hidden or secret knowledge has been vital to the preservation of such knowledge because, as history has shown, the knowers always seem to get burned at stakes or thrown to lions or some other such nonsense as that. If it hadn't been for the establishment of secret societies for the intent and purpose of preserving ancient knowledge, I assure you, all the knowers would be dead, and all that they knew would be locked up safe below the Vatican for your eyes never to see. It is true that some secret societies have been corrupted over time, I'll give you that, but I assure you, not all of them. I will even go so far with you as to say that there are some in the occult that do all that black magic nonsense with blood sacrifices to boot. But rest assured, there is a balance out here, and as far as I can tell, as of late, the balance is shifting more towards those that have compassion on mankind and want to see an evolution in the human species. That word evolution may scare some of you. The word occult may scare some of you, as well as the existence of the Illuminati, and for that I am sorry. The only thing I would advise is for you to leave your slumbering siblings in the back of the van, climb your way in between Mama and Daddy, and learn how to read the signs all around you. You do that, and I assure you that in due time you will find yourself home. See you when you get here.